I would agree with the concept form follows energy, but you would have to redefine energy. To me, it's not just the energy of the sun, it's not the energy of the earth. It's human energy, and it's actually transcendent energy which we don't even have, an absent energy. So yes, form follows energy, but the energy is a vast symbol that stands for such a complex thought. Once upon a time, one would say form follows the divine, and that would have been defined as the energy of space, the energy of a city. We don't have those vocabularies, but if you allow the word energy to be wide enough to cover everything from the most human, most intimate, most vulnerable, to the most technical and scientific, then I would say yes. And I'm working on a project with Richard Leakey, the great anthropologist, in Africa, at the origins of mankind, the Turkana, North Kenya, where we all come from. All the human DNA comes from this area. We are thinking how evolution and the environment are intertwined, and how we are changing, and how the technology is changing us. And are we going to become only brains connected to some artificial intelligence?
Well, I think in future buildings, not necessarily because architects or people want them to, but will have to be shaped to use minimum energy and minimum structure. You'll find buildings with, as time goes on, with less glass in them, less transparency, heavier insulation. I think they will start to be shaped much more by energy considerations and trying to make the building economic to run. We've reached a sort of impasse in terms of ventilating buildings, where they're so sealed that you can hardly breathe in them. And I think there's a movement to bring fresh air into buildings, to make them openable. It's just a question of air movement and finding ways of getting air moving through buildings, which saves you an enormous amount of energy over a sealed air-conditioned building, which is piling huge amounts of energy in simply to achieve the temperature which is directly outside. And for instance, at the Expo 2020 in Dubai, we have got the energy pavilion to do. Whether we can make it tenable to live in the desert, both from the energy point of view and from the sustainability point of view, because of having enough water to live on.
Form follows not just energy, but follows a lot of things. And you have to bear in mind that a lot of what I call high-tech architects think that energy and water are the only key issues, but there are a lot of other aspects of issues. And so form doesn't just follow energy, form follows a host of other things. Our work is to bring ecology with designing, but there are fundamental differences between the two disciplines. Designing has to do with fulfilling a set of problems that we set with a particular project, and designing has to do with efficiency, has to do with aesthetics. Design, first of all, has to be functional. If it doesn't work, it's a useless design. And so design has to work, has to be functional. That's the first criteria. Second criteria is that design has to meet the requirements of society. You know, local authority requirements, the building bylaws, cost, budget, quality of building. The third requirement of design, in my opinion, is it has to be very beautiful, provided it's not gratuitous. And then the fourth criteria is the most important one. To me, it's the first starting point for all our design work. It has to make people happy. And that to me is one of the most important criteria in design. Besides making it green, making it low energy, making water savings, to start with people and how to make them happy.
I think if I do form follows energy, I might say make the walls really thick with insulation and a small window, and it's good. You're going to use less energy. but I could actually go, what would I say with form? If the form follows function is true, but define your function. The functions are more complex. Well, it's never just one function. I want you to be comfortable. I want you to feel happy and be in touch with nature. I want you to feel psychological and physiologically satisfied. And I don't want you to use more energy than necessary, and definitely don't get energy from sources that would somehow reduce other people's quality of life now and in the future. I think it should all be appropriate and adequate, beautiful, timeless.
It's probably high time that we say, well, that's a given. We almost don't know how to build without using function to drive form. What we need to do is somehow bring that energy context back into the equation, which I think has been long lost since we've had easy access to energy. At a time when it was much harder, energy wasn't transported, it wasn't supplied to every dwelling, every settlement. I think then we were quite careful with how much energy we used to use, and it's certainly something I've made my quest is to try and make sure that the buildings are responding to energy. Energy becomes a big driver. It isn't just energy in its raw sense, but it's certainly the negative impacts of excessive energy, let's put it that way. So a zero carbon building, just putting carbon into the equation, you very clearly see how energy has had a massive influence on form, yet still provides the function which, as I say, we should easily be capable to do. We don't need new lessons for that. If you take a residential building in a soft California climate, you can control daylight, you can control solar gain, you can control heat loss in ways that are purely energy and form driven. But where there's less than 50% of the year that you can use passive techniques to control the internal climate, the systems are likely to have a stronger influence, or certainly noticeable in the form.
Lo que nosotros hemos podido investigar y encontrar a lo largo de 14 años, la naturaleza tiene un proceso de diseño que no solamente tiene una geometría reconocible, una geometría logarítmica, secuencial. La naturaleza ha venido resolviendo por sí misma la transformación de la energía. La arquitectura, en la forma en la que estamos aprovechando la luz, la temperatura, la dirección y velocidad de los vientos dominantes, el comportamiento de los materiales del lugar, la aplicación de determinados sistemas que se incorporan al diseño arquitectónico, pues realmente está siendo ahora la consecuencia de entender cómo se transforma la energía. Los edificios también son una consecuencia de aplicar esta filosofía de que la forma sigue la energía. Hemos tenido oportunidad de diseñar proyectos de gran escala, un pedazo de ciudad con un diseño para la generación de microclimas y al mismo tiempo como un conjunto que es un gran organismo vivo y que al mismo tiempo aplique como un gran exoesqueleto del propio cuerpo humano. Eso es lo que me permite afirmar como mi conclusión que la forma sigue la energía.